Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Michelle Tennant says, public relations is like dating. Today we'll find out why. Michelle, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so excited to be here. Okay,
now you have to tell us, you started the problem. Why is public relations like dating?
Well, it's a relationship with the public. So, just everybody think back to that awful time that we're all at a bar and we're like, oh my gosh, is that person going to speak to me? Right? Is the relationship going to start? That's what public relations is really like, but with a group of people, the public, not just one-on-one. So it's the art of actually communicating with the public, but it all starts with one relationship, and it's the relationship with the press.
Now, has it changed over the years? I think when you started, and I'm not saying you're an old person by any means, but you probably used a typewriter, and today it's all Twitter and social media, etc. Has that made things different, better, worse?
Well, I'm very forthright about my age. I'm 52. I did start PR when I was 20. So yes, I actually saw PR transition from typewriters to Twitter. So when I started, we would actually do cover letters and pitch letters. What we know is pitch letters from popular TV shows today existed even in the 1920s, right? We would actually pitch the newspapers, the TV shows, the radio shows like yours. And we would say, here's a story idea. And then back in the day, we would use whatever communication means was of the time. So back then it was a typewriter, and then it became computer. Now there's a variety of ways that we can reach out to the press, including social media, including different ways to DM, PM, whatever. I think, in fact, Bill, you'll probably remember, I've even mailed you a postcard from time to time.
Yes, absolutely. You get through it any which way, and that's great because that's what your clients want, and that's what gets our attention.
Yes, you want to get attention, and that's a hot tip for the day, by the way, is if you want to zig when other people are zagging. So if everybody's using email, why don't you use mail? If everybody's using mail, why don't you use email or direct message?
First tip of the day, zig when the others zag.
Yes.
Michelle, for our audience, I know you have some very high profile clients. You want to, if it's okay to reveal some of their names?
I would love to reveal them, of course. So right now we're doing Empathy in Action with Dr. Natalie Petahoff and Tony Bates. Tony Bates is the former CEO of Skype. I'm sure people have heard of Skype. I've also represented in my career the Nelson Mandela Foundation. I also represent one of the gold standards in personal development, a company called landmarkworldwide.com. And I've also had the pleasure of representing Take Our Daughters and Sons to Work Day Foundation, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with that holiday that happens in April.
And what is the name of your company? It's not your personal name, right?
No, it's not. It's Wasabi Publicity, like the green stuff in sushi, because just like wasabi clears your sinuses, we clear up your communication.
For most of us, we probably are on the receiving end of public relations releases, etc. But what type of services does a public relations agent, such as yourself, provide to a client?
Sure. So most people are going to have heard of a press release. So think about a press release like a flyer. You remember when we were all in high school and you wanted someone to come to a bake sale? You'd put up a flyer, right? Bake sale on Wednesday. Have your mom bake brownies and come on,
that's what I'm thinking of, the brownies, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's the same thing that a press release is for the press. It tells the press, hey, there's a ton of people getting this information. This is a copy and paste that I can use inside my magazine. I can mention it on the air. I can post it on social media. Also today, and what happens behind the scenes with a publicist is we pitch. So think about, most people today have heard of different shows like Shark Tank or different places like that, where they're on the reality shows going, pitch me in 5 seconds. Well, that's what a publicist actually does with the client, is refines that pitch, that elevator pitch that we all learn in Basic Business 101, that's what a publicist is really doing, is refining that quick pitch that gets you noticed.
Now, you mentioned some large organizations and famous people that you've represented. And is public relations, we associate that with celebrities, stars, somebody who might get in trouble and that we, might be noteworthy. So they bring on a public relations agent to kind of clean up their image, so to speak. But what about most of us, the 10-person accounting firm, the construction company, the title company in a town, or a law office? What about somebody like that? Do they have a need, or should they be thinking of a public relations organization?
I 100%. And I think that there's a lot that you can do yourself. You want to think about your ability to go to a business event, when maybe the Chamber of Commerce or some type of mixer, back to the dating analogy, right? You're quickly pitching yourself. You want to get into relationship with other people who have influence. That's all we're talking about here. I believe that most entrepreneurs and small business owners don't toot their horn enough. They feel like they're bragging. They're taught when they're raised to be more humble. The issue is that you are solving a problem for the public. If you're in business and you're successful, you're in demand because you're solving a problem for the public. That same problem that they're paying you for is something that you can teach people about. And that's where the papers, the radio shows, the TV stations, that's where they want to hear from you and your expertise, because you can put that on loudspeaker. Because at the end of the day, we as humans, we just want to be educated and entertained.
I like that. And to your point, I just spoke to someone in the legal field today, and I mentioned them. I said, I get releases, so to speak, from your competition, either by regular mail or emails and notices, and invited to free seminars or updates on the law. I said, but in 8 years, I haven't gotten anything from you, or I mentioned this other attorney.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, exactly. That's well put. You should have that magic little noisemaker, because everybody wants more business. I don't think anybody would say, gee, I don't want that extra $10,000 in revenue next year.
Right? Or
$50,000 or $500,000. And yet I'm just astounded that some people do absolutely nothing to even let me know they're still in business. And if you've dealt with someone 8 years ago, the first question you start to think of, gee, I wonder if they're still around, or did they merge, or did they move? And if they haven't contacted you in 8 years, you kind of wonder how good they are, or, if they're successful. So it brings out, I guess, some fear in the clients. You call yourself a storyteller to the media. Why is that?
Think about what you are actually watching on television, on your smartphones, on the computer, on TV, radio, your entertainment. What are you watching at the end of the day? Stories, right? We
Correct,
want stories
yes.
about each other. The human existence, who we are. I have a master's degree in human development. And one of the things that I've always seen as one of my big archetypes, the thing that that we are called to be in life, is a storyteller. So what I do when a client comes on board is we try to figure out, well, what's your story? Have you ever been at a party, Bill, and so what's up with you? What's your story? And then you go, well, this is what I do for a living. Here's my status in my family. I'm available or I'm not. I'm married or whatever. Or I'm a family. I've got children or grandkids or pets, whatever the conversation piece is. And then we get right to the story of life. Well, what are you challenged by right now? What are you feeling successful about right now? And so all we really do for clients is we're on the phones or in emails or on social media telling that story over and over and over again. Your lead story. Now, the lead story of your life.
Does someone like me, let's say I was coming to you to be a client as a radio host.
Okay.
I'm bald. Would you take first of all that and say, okay, let's emphasize your baldness, or the fact that I have glasses or a mustache? Would it be this, or would you talk to me, or would you come up with something different, make me wear a funny shirt or a red glove or something?
Well, here's the question. I would use those pieces if it actually brought you closer to your goal, which is another reason why people go, okay, well, do I need PR or not? Well, it depends. What are your goals? So if you said to me, hey, Michelle, I really want to reach, men who are in the golden years of life. I might say, tell me about how you went bald and how did you, like, tell me, because that's a story, right? There's a journey of baldness, if you will, right? You were bald as a baby. You're bald as a man. Let's talk about what happened in between. And that's fascinating for people, especially since one of our celebrities just slapped another celebrity over another celebrity being bald, right?
There you go. Perfect.
Right? Yes. And so it's interesting because it's part of our human experience. But I always question, but does it move you toward the business goals? Right?
Exactly.
And that's the thing that you have to figure out your why. At the end of the day, does telling your story to the press and what press the audience, more importantly, the audience that press person reaches, does that move forward what you're wanting to do with growing your business?
Michelle, before we go any further, I want our audience to know, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Michelle Tennant. She is the author of 21-Day PR Action Guide. And Michelle, we're going to ask you where we can get that book and if there's a website where we can find out more information.
Yes, you can find it on Amazon, and you can also go to wasabipublicity.com and get that. And if you want to get a free copy, go to storytellertothemedia.com.
Ooh, we love that word, free. That's a big one on this show.
Correct. So. Yes, that's where I blog, and I will do a special blog just for this show.
And Michelle, I'm going to tell our audience what I said to you before the show. When I saw this book, 21-Day PR Action Guide, like every book I get, I saw thumbing through it and this one really got me excited, and it might sound funny. Why? You asked just the right questions. And I said to you, I made an analogy that this was like being at a buffet and you see all the desserts and you know you shouldn't eat them, but you just keep taking them and letting out that belt and opening up your pants because they're so good. You asked some very good questions in there. And I think for anyone, this would tell people, and it's easy to answer. They're not in a difficult form. It's kind of, as you call it, an action guide and a workbook. And you ask people questions. What makes you different? What do you like? What are you interested in? And it makes people think about what they're doing and where they're going in life. So maybe they're even on the wrong track and they're getting publicity for one occupation or action, and they should be getting it for their charitable work or something like that. So it's a terrific book, a lot of fun. And if it's free, there's no reason everybody shouldn't go and get it.
Thank you so much for those glowing remarks. And if you go to storytellertothemedia.com and you search on Bill Horan's name, then I'll give you a link inside that blog entry that takes you to a downloadable link for your listeners.
Well, I think for anyone, it's worth it. And again, if you want to generate more business, no matter what you do, whether it's a home business, network marketing, you're in insurance sales or running a restaurant, take a look at this. You're going to start to realize some things that you've missed, and it can be a big turnaround. And Michelle obviously knows what she's doing in this field.
And let's face it, it might even help you with your dating game because it's going to get your why down and your message when you're at the bar.
Now you've got everybody, whether we want business or dating, you've covered everybody. How does a PR person build a relationship? How do you go about doing that?
Hello, how are you? Hi, Bill. I'm Michelle. Can I tell you a story? And then you go, typically, sure, I've got time. Pitch me. And then I just give the pitch, right? But again, it's about entertaining or educating. So I like to keep it simple. Broadcast people like Bill, like yourself, you like more entertainment, right?
Exactly.
Print people like the newspaper journalists. If I know that their game is print, I'm going to be talking more education, right? So if you don't want listeners to click off the dial, change the station, that kind of thing. So that's why broadcast people have to be focused on entertainment first. On print people, they want their Pulitzers, they want their newspapers to fly off. Remember the kid at the old, from old movies, extra, extra, read all about it. They just want a scoop that nobody else is talking about. So when you're looking at who you're speaking to in the press, you got to remember what they're doing to actually make their business grow.
Now, Michelle, when someone comes to you, is part of PR training them for the media and how to act or react?
Yes. And my husband always laughs when we're having breakfast and I'm watching the news. I love to, while I'm watching breakfast, just watch the news, the headline news. And I will critique out loud in front of him how the doctor or the lawyer or whoever the guest is of the day, how they're actually doing in the segment. And you'll hear me say things like, oh, that message was on point, or excellent. That was a great way to, craft that segment, or whatever that is. There is an art to doing an interview well. So one of the things that we do as publicists is train people how to succeed in the art of interview. It is very different than speaking, and it is very different than teaching, and it is also very different than a sales job at, a lot of people come and say, oh, well, I lead thousands and thousands of people in sales training. Great. That's good. Go do that sales training with those corporations, but that's not what the press is looking for.
That I think that's so interesting, because we all think if we're a good speaker, and let's take someone who talks all day, teachers, and they do get their message out, and they're not trying to force something, but they want people to know English or history or math or whatever they're teaching. And you have to train people how to do this, because as we see, we get guests on the show, and we've had guests who've taken up the whole show with 3 answers.
Right.
They were good speakers, but they didn't enhance their position with that, where had we gotten other aspects in, we could have shown how diverse they were and how many interesting programs they were involved in. So I know what you're talking about and can appreciate it. And is that a tough thing with a lot of people?
It's actually what we learn in journalism school as an inverted triangle. So people go, huh? Well, think about the way that you speak. And by the way, this is some dating advice, so listen up, okay? You didn't realize that it was also about dating, but it's very similar. And my husband hates the fact that I always message him and soundbite him before we go to parties. He's like, will you stop? And I'm like, no, it's important that we stay on message. Well, anyway, and think about the way that you tell a story, right? You first have the title of the story, and then you this is what's about to happen. You sort of get like a little preview because that interests you. You got to set the drama of the movie, of the story, whether you're reading or watching. There's the conflict point, right? Then the story is revealed. But with an upside down triangle, you've got to get that headline up, and then it's detail, 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 detail. Editors back in the day would literally cut off the bottom of the detail and then cut and paste that story into the newspaper. So what's happening when you have a long talker, like I'm doing right now a bit, is that they're not leading with the headline and then just adding a little detail, and then letting you, as the person who's the host of the show, I'm here to support you. And they just don't get that. And so that's what I help people understand.
Now, Michelle, I mentioned your book, The 21-Day PR Action Guide, but this is what you do. Do you advise people, is this kind of a warm-up for coming to you, or are you saying they can do it themselves or can start and try to do it themselves?
The book is contained for people who want to do it themselves. When you hire a PR firm, what's in the book is the PR firm should be doing that for you. So when we start with clients, I usually give them this book and say, this is what we're doing for you if you want to see what we're doing. The claim to fame that we have at Wasabi Publicity is our online press kits. And so the first week of the 21-day journey is really refining those press materials, whether they're online or whether they're hard copy or whether they're on a cover letter or a press release. There's also media alerts. There's pitches. So there's a variety of ways that the message that you create is delivered. So the first week is about creating those press materials. The second week is actually delivering those press materials to your target press. The last week is actually shining in those interviews.
You're really making so many great points. And I never thought of it when I first read your book. I was really enjoying it so much. But it really would be good for someone who's thinking of dating or in that world, just because it makes a person think about themselves, their strong points, their weak points, and really kind of ask them some of the things they don't have time on a day-to-day basis to even think about. They're rushing, they're doing their daily work, they're going to school at night or taking a course. And when they sit back and think of it, they say, wait, do I want to be a nurse? Do I want to be an accountant? So lots of good points in there.
Well, and fun fact that you don't know is that's how I met my husband. Is I wrote a press release and put it on Match.com. And I did that in 2002. And it actually had third-party quotes. Michelle, Jackie says Michelle is fun and energetic and blah, 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 blah. Right. And then I actually put in, so I said who I was, what I was committed to. This is the story of Michelle. and here's what I'm looking for, and like a little snapshot of who my ideal partner would be. And you know what? It attracted my husband, who I've been with for 16 years.
And does he look just like
try
George?
It out.
Does he look just like George Clooney? Is that the picture you put in there?
Well, you know, he is dark. He is tall, dark, and handsome like that.
There you go.
So,
okay.
Yeah. I did well.
So now we might see you in another forum. We might bring back for speed dating for PR people. Before we go further again, Michelle, we want our audience to know that they're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan. Our guest today is Michelle Tennant. Her book is 21 Day PR Action Guide. And Michelle, again, we're going to ask you the website and where we can get the book.
Yeah, so just remember, storyteller to the media, and the word "to" is TO.com. And then you can search for Bill Horan's name, and I'll get you a free copy of it.
Love that word, free. And to anybody, you will enjoy this, and it will get you thinking about where you're going in life, whether it's work, dating, or any of the other things Michelle might talk about.
Yeah, the art of pitching is kind of the way to look at it.
There you go. Michelle, when people come to you, what is it most people want? Do they just want to be, in quote, famous? Do they want more revenue for their business? Do they want to change their image?
They want to get their message out to the world, and they really want to make a difference. So, you know, as we become successful business owners and entrepreneurs and community leaders, one of the things that we call legacy PR is just making sure that your influence is spread as wide as it can around the globe, especially since we have the tool called the internet. So most people just want to expand and have more people take advantage of their products, services, books, and so forth.
Do most people know what they want when they come to you? Like, do they say, let's say I would come to you and say, I want to make more revenue. And you talk to me a little while and say, that's not what you want. You really want your picture in the paper and you want fame and, you know, as well as fortune.
It goes a little bit like that. Yeah. So most people think they want to sell books or they want to sell tickets to courses and whatnot. And it doesn't quite work that way. There's a really old saying, and since I have been doing it for 32 years, what we say in the business is you pay for advertising and you pray for PR. So this will be a really quick lesson for everybody. Paid, earned, and owned. So paid media is advertising. You pay somebody like Bill a fee, and then it's advertised on that station. Owned media. These are the things you own: your website, your social media, your business cards, your book, your courses, all that you own. These two places you have 100% control of the message. What we're talking about is earned media. This is the art of having somebody else use their paid and owned assets to have you be an expert in that. Or so in this case, Bill's featuring me as an expert on PR. So this is the earned media called a radio interview. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Now, Michelle, suppose somebody wants their accounting firm to get known and they want to go out and find a PR agent. What should they look for and what are some red flags? Like we hear that from people when we talk to them about finding the right doctor, lawyer, or financial planner.
So the first question you need to ask any publicist is, what did you recently place? What interview did you recently place? So, for example, my answer to that would be MSNBC or the Wall Street Journal or HR.com, things like that, right? And then you can see, like, are those the types of results that I want for my business? If you're a local business, then you're going to want the local daily newspaper or the local radio show. You don't necessarily need to go national or international. So the results within the last quarter and the last year are what's most important. So what that I placed Larry King live? Larry King is no longer a viable personality as far as press, right? So you need to know that it's somebody closer to contemporary results. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Are there certain mistakes that we might see a PR person or agency making that we kind of should put a red flag up there and we want to avoid?
I think that's the for us old dogs who, you know, are still doing the business after 3 decades. It used to be distasteful to combine paid media with earned media. So, you know, today because of influencers and bloggers, we have something where there's a hybrid of advertorials. Back in the day, we would open up a magazine and we'd see the word advertorial, and we would all know this is an advertisement and someone's actually paid for this. Well, we have what most people call fake news today. Unfortunately, that's because our stuff isn't as sourced. So you want to look at what's the inherent bias of this person speaking, writing, and so forth. But more importantly, when you're looking at a publicist and a press venue, how are those advertorials and the lines between paid and earned media really expressed? And I think that as we move forward into the future, right now it's a really gray area, and we'll probably get a little more. We can see what's happening to social media giants and different news conglomerates, and the outrage that people feel about being duped. Is that, I think that we're going to see more of that. But right now in today's marketplace, just use it judiciously and with integrity is my advice.
And Michelle, how if at all, how did the pandemic affect your business? And I don't mean just you personally, but the PR business. Did it just slow things down for X months or a year?
Made it extremely busy. So what happened actually is that the journalists were extremely furloughed in the pandemic. So a lot of press businesses were tightening their belts. So more than ever, the journalists need your help. They're overworked and underpaid. And so they're relying on people like publicists and other authors and experts who are willing to donate their time. You're basically donating your time when you're doing an interview or writing a byline article. And the press really need you today because they're really trying to figure out how to make a living still at being a journalist with integrity. And then we can reference the point I made before about the burgeoning industry and how they're trying to figure out how to make their own profits, with the advertising the way that it is.
Michelle, before we wrap up, once again, I want our audience to know our guest today has been Michelle Tennant. She is the author of 21 Day PR Action Guide. And this, again, you probably know from the way I'm talking, I really like this book. I think it's a lot of fun. And whether you're dating or looking for a business or both, it's going to be informative to you and tell you things about yourself. And you're just going to answer fun questions and go through it. It's a fun, very easy read and a kind of a workbook to learn more about yourself. Again, tell us before we wrap up the website and where we can learn more.
Remember storytellertothemedia.com. And when you go there, look for Bill Horan's name, and it'll give you a free copy of this book.
Sounds good. And again, the book, 21 Day PR Action Guide. Watch your business go up there, and then you can hire Michelle to get national coverage when you need
Would
her.
be my pleasure.
And it's called the Wasabi Agency. Is that right?
Yeah, Wasabi Publicity.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's easy to remember. Every time you eat, you'll just think of Michelle with the wasabi.
Thank you. Perfect.
Michelle, thanks for being with us today. We'd like our audience to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.